Welcome everybody in our new show. I am Leonard, next to me Leah, and today we're gonna talk about mold problem, mold issue, how mold affect your health. And Leah, if you can introduce yourself and tell what you are dealing, how you ended up with dealing with mold, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. So my name is Leah Delancey. I'm a nutritional therapist. I've been working in nutritional therapy for years, but in recent years I've had serious mold exposure, both myself and my family. And I've come to realize how much of a problem this is for people. There doesn't seem to be much on offer from mainstream medicine, unfortunately. It doesn't seem to be on their radar at all. I'm kind of on a mission to get information out there and help people, because I think, there's a lack of recognition of quite how much, of a problem this is and how many people it affects, and how serious.
Let me start from the beginning. We met last year,
Yeah.
I believe so. And even we called out to Leah's house installing ventilation, remediate mold, and that's how we started to talk. And also I recommend Leah to one of my clients, and so on. And Leah helped people to rid of mold in their life, to get healthier again. And it's really important to educate people, and that's what we are trying with Leah, to get more information to you people, because the basic knowledge about mold in Ireland is very low, and we need to educate people to get healthier. And I bring up few topics, Leah. The first one is how poor indoor air impact your health.
Yeah, so, there's a trend now, obviously, with people getting more environmentally friendly to try and warm up their homes and, make them more, get their bills down and to have less of a carbon footprint. But sadly, what that means is, we're trying to keep the windows closed, to keep it warm inside so we're not losing the heat. We're enclosing our homes, we're insulating them, making them airtight. But when we keep all the air indoors like that, it allows many different toxins in the indoor environment to build up. And, this is not a situation that humanity has ever been in before. We've always lived in drafty homes, and before that, before that, more out in the open, or, drafty shelters, whatever. Mm-hmm. This is not a new problem, but it's escalating fast. We're not just talking about mold. When we're talking indoor air quality, we're talking dust. We're also talking, the chemical products that you use in your home, cleaning products, fragrances in the home. All of those things have to be processed by our liver. Otherwise, they're going to build up and cause us health problems. Indoor air quality is a huge issue now. There's even research which suggests that sometimes the indoor air is even more toxic than the outdoor air. So we were talking about this a minute ago, before we started the interview, but I'll try and get you some data on that.
So basically, when we are talking about these things, the ventilation unit is really important in your home. Something mechanical which is always bring fresh air, clean air, and reducing the humidity level in your home. It's really important, especially with new build, airtight, well insulated houses.
Exactly, and this is where what you're doing is so important, because I think between the cost of our bills these days and, just not really understanding the issue at all, we're not opening the windows, and we're probably worried about ventilation, that it's going to make the house cold or something. But, that hasn't been my experience. You installed my vents last year, and there's a heat exchange unit inside. Exactly. So the warm air stays inside where the cold air stays outside. So you can have healthy, fresh air ventilating your home all the time. but without, getting cold or...
And you know what is funny? To run a unit, I don't know you noticed that, but the unit what we installed, that was a single room heat recovery unit. And an annual fee for that unit to run, it's less than €7, which is your mobile charger using more electric power than a ventilation unit what we are installing, which is funny. What you are receiving, fresher, cleaner, reducing humidity for a small amount of money, this really pay off the investment of your property. And basically you are not just investing in your property, you are investing in your health. Absolutely. Which is the most important.
100%. And after we had our vents installed, we didn't see any difference in the electricity bill from the unit, but we saw a huge difference in the heating bills. So, I just think it's a no-brainer.
And how was the condensation? Sorry, maybe you didn't hear it, but how was the condensation on the windows? What you noticed in the morning time, let's say?
Oh, completely different. So, before we had the ventilation, we had condensation on the windows, especially at the front of the house, which doesn't get the sun. So, that was concerning me because, we suffered from mold exposure in my last home. It was concerning for me to see the condensation because I knew it was a bad road to go down. But the very next day after we got the vents installed, you could feel the difference in the air, and now you can feel the air is really dry. There's no problem now with condensation in my home. Yeah.
Always nice to get a nice feedback from customers. If you can move on to the next topic, which is the myth about mold. Sorry, the light off. The myth about mold.
Myths, about mold. Yeah.
Let's start it one more time. Myths.
Myths.
Okay. Leah, the next topic is the myths about mold.
Yes. Well, I think the biggest myth about mold is that you can just clean it off with bleach. That's what I grew up with. Anybody I ever talk to, they say, oh, yes, just, get a bit of bleach, it'll be fine. But what I discovered in my own mold journey, and I'm sure you know this as well, when you use bleach, you're actually just bleaching the mold. It's still there and it's still toxic. It's still causing, damage to your property, damage to your health. Bleach just isn't going to do the job. So please, if anybody's out there using bleach to clean the mold, just, find a different way. A simple household product that I've been using is vinegar, but ultimately you need to get a permanent solution because if there's any mold in your environment, eventually you're going to get sick,
Exactly.
It's a very, very serious toxin. I can't stress it enough. Don't live with mold. Get rid of it. And Leonard did a mold inspection on my home. When I moved into my new home, after leaving the old moldy house that we were in, you came and you did a thorough inspection. Leonard has cameras that go behind the plaster work and the walls so that you can see, because even if you can't see mold there, the toxins can still pass through the building materials and be affecting your health. So it's very important to get a proper inspection done. And I always recommend VentSolve in Ireland because I've worked with you and I know that you're going to do a proper job.
Thank you. Back to the bleach.
Yes.
I received a nice comment on Instagram or Facebook, cannot really remember. I pointed out the same thing what you said, but some nice supportive person commented, why don't you just bleach it and the mold is solved? And I commented back that what about the mold spores in the air? The answer was, if you clean the mold, there is no mold spores, which is absolutely wrong. First, when we are talking about remediation, mold remediation, first you need to kill the mold spores in the air, which you can do it with fogging service. It can be either ozone fogging or OLV fogging or any other type of fogging service. But when the mold spores is not killed, not remediated, you can clean it, the mold as much as you want. It will come back eventually, and the air is still affected by mold spores, so that's not gonna be the right way. So first you are fogging serviced, then you can focus on the visible mold. And bleach is absolutely not the right chemical. It needs to be a ammonium chloride based chemical. Or if you are not a remediation company, you can use a vinegar, something which is not harm for your health, but still does the job. But eventually, as you mentioned it, you need to go to the bottom of the line. Why is the mold there? Why is the humidity is high?
Yeah.
Why is there is no enough airflow? Is the insulation is the problem? So you need to get the surveyor out to your home and find it, where is the mold, why is coming there, and when you have the answer, you can hire the right company. For example, VentSolve. We can do almost everything. Exactly. And again, if we can move on, and we can talk about how mold affects lives. What is the symptom? If you feel it, we can expect that is mold. If we can talk about this type of stuff, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a very important area to talk about, because if you look it up online, you're going to see allergy symptoms listed. So you'll expect to get kind of a hay fever situation, maybe a bit of asthmatic kind of symptoms, breathing, all centered around the nose, runny eyes, things like that. But in reality, what we see a lot of the time is very different. A lot of people don't get the allergic symptoms, and instead they get quite vague symptoms that they don't associate with something in their environment, with an allergy. They go to the doctor, and because doctors really don't have this on their radar yet, they are unfamiliar with the symptoms, and so it often gets passed off as other things. So warning signs to look for. Obviously, the allergic side of it is there, but even if you don't have allergy symptoms, if you have regular headaches, if you're feeling tired no matter how much sleep you get, if you have digestive issues, skin issues, strange rashes, anything like that, and you know that there's mold in your house, or damp even, or previous water damage, you need to check that out. And there's a few real giveaway symptoms as well, which I'll tell you as well. So if you ever get a sensation in your skin that's like an ice pick or a lightning bolt, that's classic mold. What's the other skin symptom? I'm blanking. But if you get static shocks a lot, for example, that would be another good one. And if you ever feel like a vibration inside of you, like a tremor inside, as if you had too much coffee, but you haven't had any coffee, that's another classic sign of mold. And the other thing to flag up is fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, very much associated with mold illness. So anybody with symptoms like that, if you've had any type of water damage in the past, whether it's present or past, even if you've had your house remediated and you're sure all the mold is gone, if you're still getting those symptoms, you need to do something about it, because mold is so incredibly toxic.
Yeah, my example, my story is I've been surveying houses now for now it's 6 years I've been surveying houses, and last year between August and December I was surveyed roughly 3, 4, 5 houses per day, and I didn't use the right PPE. I learned it and I knew it what I supposed to do it,
yes.
But my laziness, I was lazy and I didn't put on mask, I didn't have gloves, full cloth, overall.
Yeah.
And after a couple of months, I even contacted you, if you remember,
right.
That I have headache, brain fog, I don't feel well, could you help me? And you give me some advice, and I stopped surveying houses for 3 months, and I felt healthier than ever.
Yeah.
Obviously, I followed the diet, and I changed few things in my life, but no running, running nose, no headache, and I felt my energy like it's back, and really, so you don't even notice it, and you get sick very easily.
Yeah.
And just with one little thing, PPE, how important it is.
Yeah, if anybody who's watching doesn't know, PPE is, the full suit of clothes that protects you against toxins, including mold.
So Leah, if we can touch that topic, what I received some queries from my clients that how is possible that somebody is sick in the house and the other is not?
Oh yeah, of course. Mold illness, mold toxicity doesn't affect everyone equally. So, there's a lot of factors which play into this. Your other things that are going on with your health or your stress levels or whatever. But, most importantly, not everybody is, we don't have the same susceptibility to mold because of genetic factors. So where most people can deal with mold to a certain degree, a quarter of the population has a genetic susceptibility, which means that their body doesn't process it as fast. So you can have that situation where one person in the house is sick and other people aren't. And this brings me on to, a few kind of questions that I also get. That's one that I commonly get. Well, if mold is so toxic, why am I sick and other people aren't sick in the same house? But, I get other questions like, why is this suddenly happening now? I mean, we've had mold in our houses for decades, so how come we're suddenly getting sick? But this goes back to the changes that we have made in construction methods, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well. The change in building materials, which grow mold more effectively. Houses are more airtight, and that's where your ventilation systems come in. So, those would be two of the big questions that I get as well. I'm just trying to think if there are others. Oh, the other one, we've touched off briefly before. If this was such a big issue, surely my doctor would know, or there would be, a test from the HSE or something like that. But I think this is escalating. It's a problem which is growing because of modern building methods. So we didn't have it to the same degree, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We had drafty houses, which was essentially ventilation, and I'm sure plenty of your clients have also experienced, the amazing difference. Once you get the ventilation put in, you can really feel it in the property, and that's what people need to bear in mind, that we don't live in the same world and the same houses that we used to. 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Well, regarding the building, what I really like when people are replacing the single glazed window to double or triple glazed window, and then they just seal down the house really well, and there is no ventilation at all. Yeah, because you had a drafty house, drafty windows, that was the ventilation, but not anymore. And then you need a mechanical ventilation system, and also building construction site. What I really noticed in the past 6 years when I started to surveying construction site, by that time they try to hide it. Now this time they realize it. If they hide it, they just create a bigger problem for the future. Yeah. And that time treatment was enough. Now they realize the treatment, it might be treating a surface, but the mold still inside. The mold could still be behind the plasterboard. Can that be behind your utility, bathroom, kitchen, wherever, but behind the plasterboard? And what we want to change in Ireland to remediate the plasterboard, it's not just a treatment. You need to replace the plasterboard. Yes. And that's what I want all the construction site realize. Treatment is not enough. If the mold is on both sides of the plasterboard, that's a fact that you need to replace. There is no treatment if the mold is on both sides. But if it's on the one side, it can be inspected and might be savable, but I rather replace it that one. Yeah. Plasterboard is not an expensive material. It's easy to replace it. Yeah. So that's my suggestion for all the construction company to replace plasterboard rather just the treatment.
And I think you make an important point, and this is something that I really try and impress upon people. Cleaning isn't sometimes there are situations where you can just clean off mold because it's just on the surface. Yeah. But, if you've had mold a long time or, it's an extensive problem, it's in the plasterboard and it needs to be removed. So you have to be very careful who you're choosing to do your remediation work. And you know this as well as anyone, Leonard. The plasterboard has to be completely removed, and with a wide safety margin. You don't just remove the visible mold because the roots extend further. So you need to just do it once, do it properly, and make sure that you're not going to have, like you said, repeated problems over time. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you see the same thing with, like, I'm not going to name any names, but there are companies out there who will just clean off the mold, even on extensive, serious mold infestations. Clean it off, paint over it, and you can't see anything. And people say, well, how come I can't see any mold and I'm still sick? Surely the mold is gone if I can't see it. No, it's not. It's in the materials, and you have to go right back and make sure the job is done properly. Painting over it does not do the job properly, and in fact can make the problem worse over time. I don't know if you know this fact, Leonard. Everybody's heard of the friendly bacteria that we have inside our gut, but we also know that there's bacteria everywhere in our world. We live in bacteria. It's all in our houses and everywhere. So if you just paint over mold and you use one of the antimicrobial products, mm-hmm. you're changing the balance of bacteria in your home. And then over time, what you create is a problem with your home's microbiome, just like you would with your stomach. So then after time using these antimicrobial products, you get not only problems with mold, but you get problems with other bacteria and other toxic species. So the problem just gets compounded. So pick a good remediator who's going to do the job properly the first time, and not just paint over the problem, literally paint over it.
What I see property management landlords, if they are trying to cut corner, trying to save money, and they are not going down to the bottom, what is the problem, and they are who is the real problem in Ireland and all over the world. Oh, paint is enough, clean is enough. No, we need to remediate. We need to find out why is the mold there, and we cannot just let it happen that we get a handyman from the corner and he will paint it over and the problem is solved. The next tenant can come in. No, that's the wrong way, and we want to change this, and we're gonna work hard to find those people who is in this position to being suffering from mold, and we are more than happy to help them. If the cost is to call out for free and survey the house, but having a right report and go to the right person and help them, I am happy to do that. I have no issue with that. Or send us an email and get a free advice. 5-10 minutes from my time is not a problem.
Yeah, and I think the inspection service that you offer is really valuable because I think I paid $150 for you to come and inspect my house, and the peace of mind that bought me, after suffering myself with really serious symptoms, to know that my house was mold-free for that small price, was of great value. And I think, a lot of people who have mold in the home are, maybe they suspect, they're not sure, to actually have that report, because you gave me a really good report which was detailed, and it showed exactly, all the areas and, anything of concern, so that we could work through it, and just having that piece of paper, have everything down on paper, helps you to take the next step then.
Yeah, please note that €150 the survey. If you live around Dublin or in Dublin, we reuse the €150 from the total cost of our service. So basically, you had the report for free. If you are outside of Dublin, we need to cover our cost of the traveling. But if you are Dublin, the survey could be free. Leah, I'm not sure you heard about that a little kid died in UK because the landlord didn't respond quick enough
That's
to
right.
tackle down the mold problem in their home. Have you heard about that?
Yeah. So this was a little boy. I believe his name was Awab, and the family was living in rented accommodation and were requesting for the landlord to come and fix an extensive mold problem. But sadly, the landlord took so long that in the space of a few months, the little boy, who was 2, actually died from a respiratory illness caused by mold. And I think it's good timing you brought it up, because I believe that they're passing a law now in the UK any day now, to try and prevent things like that happening.
They actually do, and I'm just really hope Ireland will follow them, because it's really important to tackle down the mold and get a quick response for our tenants. Because what I see, tenants are complaining and send them email to the agency, and they just hide it and answering after a week's time, and they could get sick, and we don't want to be in this position when somebody passes away. That's a dramatic, and we just don't want to be, and we are hoping Ireland will follow UK.
Yeah, and I think it's important that people realise, we may not have the laws in place yet, but it just shows this case really demonstrates how toxic mold is. Little kids especially, kids are much more susceptible to toxins like mold because their bodies are so small, their immune systems are not as strong as ours. Please, if you are pregnant or if you have small children, get them out of the mold as quickly as possible. Let them stay with relatives, find a temporary place to live. Do not wait for an agency or landlord to take action. If you're struggling to get them to do something about it, just be really forceful. This is serious stuff we're dealing with here.
I agree that. Thank you, Leah, to brought this up.
No problem.
Yeah, if you can tell me more about your business, how you are doing.
Sure, yeah. So nutritional therapy is a natural medicine. We use diet and lifestyle to help people to support their health, and a lot of the problems that we have today are due to lifestyle issues or environmental issues like mold. And, I've really seen there's a huge problem with mold illness at the moment because there's such a lack of information out there. People really don't understand what they're dealing with here and how to protect themselves. I'm trying to upgrade the information on my website so that, I can give people some free resources to really learn more about, what mold illness entails, how to recognize it, how you can get tested easily, because you can actually get a test. You got one from me last year, which is a very simple urine test that you take at home, pop it back in the post and send it off to the lab. So very quick, very easy, very convenient.
Can I just ask how long the people need to wait for the test? If you can mention this to my viewers and your viewers, obviously.
Yes, of course. So once you send the test off, usually results come back in 2 to 3 weeks. Now, what I would say is
really quick.
Yeah, but if you have mold in your house, don't wait for the mold test. If you are in a moldy house, there's mold there, you have symptoms of any kind, just get out. It's, really important, I think, for people psychologically to get that test result, because everybody says to me, oh, but, my family isn't sick, or, nobody believes me. And they think that this is all in my mind. My doctor offered me an antidepressant, told me it was all stress or hormones. So that piece of paper, the test result, is really important for a lot of people. So they can say to their family, this is real, And
can I ask, whenever they receive the test, what is the next step, Leah, if you can point this out?
Yes, of course. So it depends kind of how long you've been exposed to mold, what your symptoms are. We kind of have to take it on a case-by-case basis. But what I usually say to people is, if the mold exposure is recent and small, say less than 3 months, something like that, I'm putting together like a self-guided program so people can just learn and do this from home themselves, and they don't necessarily need to pay for my time. I wanted to create something that was financially accessible, because usually people have to spend a lot on remediating their homes. So that's one option. But then if people are more sick and they've been going through this for a long time, or it's an extensive mold exposure, then they can work one-to-one with me, and really kind of get to the bottom of things. And now the thing I have to flag up for everybody is that recovering from mold illness can take some time. Now, yourself, you had a small issue with exposure and you got through it in a few months, but there are people who are more sick and need longer.
Luckily, I met you and you mentioned these things to me as well. What is the symptom, and how the reaction time is really important. And when I had my issue, my illness, I reached you out after 2 months time, and we can tackle it very easily down. And I believe I just needed only 2-3 months and I was healthy again. But the time is very important. So if you are feeling unwell, you better to reach out Leah or any other specialist who can help you. Either even VentSolve, we can refer Leah. We can refer the right person to you who can help. And the time is important.
Yeah, and I'm actually putting together some free information for people. So I'm creating an ebook about mold illness, which will give people, it's an extensive ebook. There's a lot of information in there. It'll give everybody kind of the basics so they know, should I get tested or not? So it's not ready yet. I'm hoping soon it'll be there, but check my website, which is motherofthewoods.com. I'll put it up on the front page so people can access it easily.
I can't wait to see that, Leah, and I'm definitely will passing to people, because I'm getting lots of questions regarding mold illness, and I need to refer people to Leah. I am an owner of mold remediation company. I have a basic knowledge of mold illness, but I'm not the right person to talk about. That would be Leah, and also Leah would recommend people to me to remediate their home, and that's how we can cooperate together, Leah, basically.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm really thank your time. You came down to Dublin and we could chat. It's always pleasure to talk to you, Leah.
Thank you, Leonard.
Thank you so much, and see you in the next video, guys.